Welcome to the Composer's Journey. In this episode, we're going to talk about how to fuel yourself for composition. I know it's a topic that almost nobody talks about, but there are so many similarities between composing, the activity itself, the physical, mental activity, and say a long distance runner or a triathlon athlete. And we're going to talk about ways that you can optimize and fuel yourself to do your best work. So let's head over to my studio and we'll get into this. A really important factor that most composers may or may not be aware of is how do you fuel yourself, or how do you provide the energy for your body and for your brain when you're working at the piano, when you're composing, when you're at your keyboard for hours and hours. And I have found out from working under deadlines for Hollywood for many decades that, like if I have a big meal, like, a big, heavy meal, the blood pretty much can only go two places in your body. It can either go to your limbs. It's going to go to your heart anyhow, because your heart needs the blood. And if it goes to your limb and your heart, then your brain your body subtracts some of that blood from the brain. And if the brain doesn't have the fuel it needs, that physically it's like operating your car without enough gas in it. It's gonna sputter and have a more difficult time, especially you're on a long trip and you're gonna run out of gas pretty soon. So how do composers fuel their body and their mind for this composing thing that we do? If you look at it as a sport, it would be very much like a distance runner. The distance runner has to run for 4 hours or 5 hours or 6 hours, like a triathlete. And what they do is they carbo load as opposed to eating hamburgers and meat and loading up on protein, because their body is going to burn energy for a long time. And the long burn system is what we use in composing. And so the best thing to do is to have some carbohydrates, like some pasta, something in that area, because the brain burns carbohydrates in the form of glucose, and then that glucose is combined with oxygen. So naturally, you're going to get oxygen because you're alive and you're breathing in and out. And it's good to maybe stop and check yourself and, make sure you're still breathing and, still taking air in and out. And if you're not, call 911 immediately. But anyways, back to the fuel. So fuel yourself, like if you're going to compose one day, the next day, or the next few days, start loading carbos, like maybe even some energy drinks and things like that. And also I found that coffee, for me, you might find something else, has a good level of stimulant in it that it gets the brain, gets the body, everything kind of easy to focus. And too much coffee, you're going to get nervous and rip up the score and yell at everyone around you and be, you'll be turned into a monster. But with the right dose of coffee, like a cup of coffee to kind of get you started at least in the morning, or when you start writing, will help you to stay engaged, help you to stay focused. So if you have the carbohydrate that's your brain can burn, and then you've got the coffee added to it, it's kind of a combination that I found to be super effective and a good way to fuel your composer sporting event. And to kind of illustrate that, I thought you might want to know how I make or how you can make composer coffee, because that's quite different than regular coffee. So I hope you enjoy this little clip I made. I hope you enjoyed this episode. It's important to consider all these little factors because they do add up. What we eat, the kind of energy systems that we have, make a huge difference in how our mind and our body can work, especially when we put it under pressure for hours and hours as we're working at the piano or the computer keyboard. We need to understand how to optimize our energy systems so we can do our best work. So take care. It was fun to share with you today, and I hope you'll join us for another episode of The Composer's Journey.